So mainly we have two type of kernel exist. The first kernel is called monolithic kernel and the second kernel is called micro kernel. Now what is the monolithic kernel? That we'll see first. So in the monolithic kernel, all operating system services run along with the main kernel threads. So there are only one thread of the main kernel and all the services will run by the main thread or main, you can say main module of the kernel. So there is only one module of the kernel and in that particular one module, lots of things are there related to the operating systems. Thus, all thus also residing in the same memory space, memory area. So you can see that different functionality, which we have just seen that what kernel can do, all the thing will be managed by one program. So let's say there are 10,000, 20,000 line of code in which we have the provision that how we'll manage the program, how we'll manage the CPU, how we'll manage the memory, how we'll manage the file system, how this device driver is going to be managed, how we are managing the hardware, all the thing will be written in one big program. And this one big program will taken as a kernel. And all these things will be done in the same memory space. So there are two memory spaces, user memory and the system memory. So there are the spaces where user program is going to run and system program is going to run. So system program is nothing but your kernel or your operating system. So from the system program, also from the application program, also it has taken the area of to the system program. So all the thing will be run in a supervisor mode. We doesn't require the user mode. So that is happening in the monolithic kernel. Means all the thing will be written in one particular program. This approach provides rich and powerful hardware access because all the thing will be run by the supervisor mode. We doesn't have to change the mode all the time. So easily a program will get the hardware, easily a program will get different type of device driver to manage. So it doesn't have to change the mode. And see, always you remember that whenever we want to change the mode from user to supervisor or supervisor to user, we need some sort of interrupt. An interrupt is required and it will take time. Let's say if I am in the user mode and I want suddenly I need some sort of hardware, I need to change the mode from user to the supervisor mode. To handling the interrupt, it will take time, right? And to managing the interrupt, it is also taking time. But here what will happen is everything is running in the same mode or same area like supervisor mode. So we doesn't have to change it frequently and it will be very fast because everything is there in one program. I don't have to go and see whether the device driver is there or not or what type of firmware we are using, or there are many other things that are there, right? So we'll see that. Some developer such as Unix developer, which is the developer of the Unix is Ken Thompson. Ken Thompson, I told you about, he's a white hat hacker. White hat hacker means the hacker with ethical hacker. Ethical hacker comes under white hat hacker. So this Ken Thompson has done research on Windows operating system, and they will find out that there are many flaws and there many problem related to different type of problem related to viruses and different hacking. So he has developed a kernel which is called Unix kernel, and this particular Unix kernel, what he has developed is developed monolithic kernel. Means all the thing will be done in once, in a one package. So and it says that it is more secure. So now in today's Unix software or Unix-like software, like Linux software, we see that it is more secure than the Windows operating system, related to hacking, related to what viruses and all. So, such as Unix developer, Ken Thompson maintained that it is easier to implement a monolithic kernel than microkernel. So, what it find out that it is easy to make one program instead of a small program of a kernel, and this kernel will manage the other programs like other device drivers and other functionality of the operating system from the outside. Instead, all the things should be managed inside one program. So it find out that it is easier to implement monolithic kernel. The main disadvantage of monolithic kernel are the dependencies between system components. So definitely, if you are making one program and you are looking for, let's say, at one time you are looking for managing the CPU, and the same time you are looking for managing the main memory, and both the program are there in one particular big program or big kernel, monolithic kernel program. So definitely, to find it out and to manage all those things, it is very difficult. So it says that this is the disadvantage, because the interdependency will be increasing because they are one program and definitely they are dependent. A bug in the device driver might crash the entire system. So as I told you that a monolithic kernel has all the thing involved in one particular program. If we finding bug in any of the programs, so my whole kernel is going to crash, or my whole operating system is going to crash. So that is a problem related to the monolithic kernel, because all the program are de- dependent, they are not independent, in the fact that large kernel can become very difficult to maintain. So the examples is in today's Linux is one example you can see. And there is mm, BSD, that is Berkeley Software Distribution. That is also a type of operating system where monolithic kernel has been used. Then in previous version of Windows 95, 98, monolithic kernel has been used. Okay, now look, let's go to the microkernel. What is a microkernel is also abbreviation as MuK. Is the term describe an approach to operating systems designed by which the functionality of the system is moved out of the traditional kernel into a set of servers that communicate to the minimal kernel. So here is the concept of minimal kernel, means the kernel size has to be reduced in such a way so that all other component will be independent and all other component will be managed independently, leaving a little as possible in the system space. So system space is very little, means your the space where only system software is there, that space is very less, as much as possible with the user space, and the user space is bigger at that particular micro kernel. So here the concept is we'll make a minimal kernel, and this minimal kernel is going to manage each and every component of the operating system. That is a concept of microkernel. The microkernel that is designed for a specific platform or device is only ever going to have what it need to operate. There is some example of microkernel like Mac OS, Windows NT, which is a network version of OS, or Minix 3, that is also a type of microkernel. Now let's see the difference between these two with the help of a diagram. So you see this is a microkernel where this is the kernel part. So you see there are only basic inter-process communication part is there. Then virtual memory, how virtual memory is going to manage that part is there, and scheduling part is there. Scheduling will be the CPU schedule and your disk schedule. So only these part is there with the kernel, and other parts like application, interprocess communication, Unix server, device driver, and the file servers all are independent module here, and they are running in the user space. Now, if we'll talk about monolithic kernel, then all these things like device driver or dispatcher, scheduler of the virtual memory, inter-process communication in the file system, virtual file system, and your system calls, all those things will be there in a one program, and all these are the part of the kernel in a monolithic kernel, and all these are running in the kernel space or system space. Okay. And whenever we require, let's say we are managing the file system, so we have to go to the kernel mode or the supervisor mode, and here it is outside it, but definitely the kernel is going to manage this. The management will be done by the kernel, but now they are the separate entities in the monolithic kernel. So you see, what are the advantages in the monolithic kernel? Your kernel size is very small, so definitely we doesn't have to waste the memory space of the RAM. Let's say my RAM is 4 GB. So generally what will happen is 1 GB will accommodate for the operating system. But in the monolithic kernel, it will be of MB. So only small MB, 1 MB or 2 MB space will be taken off the RAM for the operating system. So, and you can see that when your system boots, after the booting, this is the program, the kernel that will be there in your RAM, and it will run up to you are shutting down your system. So this kernel will be there always in your RAM. So if you think that your RAM space is very less, so don't use the monolithic kernel. Instead, use the microkernel. The advantages are these application IPC, these Unix server, these device driver, and these file servers we can manage independently. If you want to add something, you can add it. If you want to correct something, you can correct it. So all these, because all these modules are independent, so management will be very easy. But here it is a part of the kernel, so we cannot change the kernel actually, right? It will be changed only when we install another version of the operating system or the new version of the operating system. Then only it is going to change. Otherwise, it is not going to change. If something goes wrong with the file system, if something goes wrong with the process communication or some sort of device driver, then this monolithic kernel is going to crash. And see how it is connected. Like your application programs are there. Through the application program, you can able to communicate with the kernel, and these kernel will run, because they are system software, it will run in a supervisor mode, and then it will interact with the hardware. So you see that how this what interface will be taking place. That's why it is the kernel is in between the application and the hardware, or you can say the software and the hardware. So this is your kernel, and we have seen different functionality of the kernel, how it is working, different types of kernel. So I think this concept is clear to all of you.